First thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to go ahead and start a new Flash file, ActionScript 2.0, and I'm going to do a show frame. That way I can see the entire stage in my work area. Also, remember that your stage has a specific size by default, 550 by 400. Since I know the size of the images we're going to use, we're going to go ahead and resize this so that the stage fits the size of our image. So we're going to keep the width 550, and I'm going to change the height to 309. And then I'm going to click OK. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and do show frame again. There we go. All right, so there's two photos that it's in Poland pickup that you're going to use. Mine are on my desktop. I'm going to go ahead and file, import to library. And the name of the photos are SFMS BW for black and white and SFMS color.jpg. And I'm going to import those to the library. Now, once it goes through, you'll see the photos show up here. Now, we're going to put them each on their own layer, and I want the black and white one to be on the bottom, and I'll go ahead and call that one BW for black and white. And the photo is really large, so it fits, or doesn't fit rather, the stage. We need to resize it so that it does. So I'm going to go to my properties, and remember I have this position and size. If we keep this thing locked here, we can change the width, and it's automatically going to update the height. Then I'm going to use my align panel to align it to the center of the stage. Going to create a new layer. This one I'll go ahead and call color. And I'm going to drag the color one here. And again, I'm going to resize it. Oops. 550. And there it is on the stage. So if I close, or not close, but hide the layer on top, notice that it's the same photo, just one layer or one instance of it is black and white. The other one is color. Now, if you look at your properties, and remember that whatever you have selected shows you something different in the properties. So if I deselect the images, I can look down here and I can see my frame rate, my frames per second, and it's set at 20 right now. So what I want is I want to go ahead and fast forward in my timeline here to frame 140, okay? And remember that frames, that's just these rectangles here in our timeline, and frames are responsible for determining how much time an animation takes. So if I have a frame rate of 20 frames per second and I want it to last 140 frames, we know that that is 7 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to F5. Remember, F5 is how you insert a frame. Okay, now the difference between a frame and a keyframe, this is important. A frame is simply helping you determine the amount of time. A keyframe is where one of the dots are. That means like this. That means that something is starting, ending, or changing there. Okay, so make sure that you're understanding the difference between the two. Now, I've actually changed my mind, and I want my color layer to be on the bottom. So that's easy to do, just like in Photoshop. You can click and drag on it so that it is on the bottom. That means that right now the black and white one is the one that is visible at the top. Now I'm going to create a third layer, and this third layer I'm going to call mask. Now you heard the term mask when you were doing Photoshop, and this acts in a similar way in that we're going to have an object that is going to allow us to see through this top layer, and go to the bottom layer. Okay, so to start off, I'm going to go ahead and lock black and white and the color layers, and I am going to draw a rectangle. So I'm going to need my rectangle tool. That was not it. There we go. And I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so that I can see some of the backstage area. Now, I will tell you that your color for this is irrelevant. Okay, so you could pick any color there is and it doesn't matter. I'm going to draw it in object drawing mode, and that's because I have a fill and a stroke. And by doing it object drawing mode, it's going to keep both those pieces together. So I'm going to start off over here on the left-hand side, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle. And you see how part of it sits off the stage. That's fine. And I can go here into my properties panel, and I can actually change the size. So I'm going to go ahead and change the width to 85. Oops, and I probably should have unlocked that first. And then the height to 325. Okay, and what that's going to do is that's just going to make sure that it sits and covers both top and bottom, and then we're going to make it sit to the left edge of the stage. So what I'm going to do, again with the Align panel, if I see that it's gray, that means that it's aligning it to the stage. So I want it to be aligned on the left edge. Okay, and if I were to move this up just a little bit, notice the left edge of the rectangle is on the left edge of the stage. I'm also going to align it to the vertical center. That means that there is the same amount of rectangle hanging off the top as there is the bottom. And now I'm going to go back in to show frame so I can see the whole thing. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a motion tween on this rectangle. And I'm going to do that by holding down the control button, and then I'm going to click on it and choose Create Tween. Now, it's reminding me that you have to convert it to a symbol first. Normally, I want to encourage you guys to go ahead and make it a symbol so that you can name it. But since this is going to be the only symbol in this particular assignment, it's not a big deal. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. You can see that it names it symbol 1. Okay, and obviously if you are coming up with a complex animation, you don't want symbol 1 through 100 because then you're not going to know how to find it to edit it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this is going to be how it starts off. And I want first off, let me point out that this new one, when we inserted the motion tween, notice how it's a blue background. Also notice that it went ahead and extended the frames out to 140 there as well, just because it assumes that it wants to we want it to last the same amount of time as the other layers. All right, so I'm going to move my playhead here over frame, I'm going to say 23. And you know that it's over 23 because it tells you right here. That's your current frame indicator. Now, with that, we are going to move the rectangle. Okay, so we want the rectangle to now be on the right edge of the stage. So I can actually I could just move it over, but it'd be just as easy if I use my Align panel and move it over there to the right. Okay, now notice how it's moving from frame 1 to frame 23, and it's now on the right side of the stage. Now I'm going to go ahead and move my playhead over frame 70. Now I want you to realize that, remember this diamond keyframe, it is telling us that we have different kinds of keyframes. It's a property keyframe, and we simply change the position of this one. Okay, so now if we're on 70, then we're going to use the Align panel to position the rectangle on the left side of the stage again. Okay, so it's going to move back to the left only it's going to take longer this time. So now I'm moving it back. Whoops. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so if I play this so far, whoops, let me start it at the beginning. Try that again. Fast and now slow. Okay. Now, after frame 70, now we're going to move our playhead over frame 71. That's going to be the very next keyframe. And the reason I'm making this over 71 is because we need to change the property value. So I'm going to hit F6. It's going to insert another keyframe. And I'm going to now move my playhead to the very end, frame 140. Now I didn't do anything in frame 71. It's just setting it up so that I can now scale it here. So before, the first few, we moved the rectangle. Now from 71 through the end, we want it to actually fill the stage. So what I'll do is I'll use my free transform tool, and I could just drag on the corner and resize it, but the easiest thing is going to be to click on it and to use our position in size here in our properties panel to change it to the size of the stage, or actually the size of what we actually set it up to. So I'm going to do 550. I know the width of the stage is 550, and the height we'll leave at 325. Now, you can see that it automatically made it the size of the stage, however, or covered the stage. However, if I wanted to make sure, I could go ahead and use my align panel to make sure that it fits or covers the stage. Now, at this point, what we have is a rectangle that moves, and now it grows. Okay? And while that's a nice thing that we can do by having this moving, growing rectangle, that's actually not the purpose of this. Now, this frame, or sorry, this rectangle is going to act as our mask. So now I am going to right click, or sorry, control click on that layer. And you see how when I say on that layer, I am actually on where the name of the layer is, because there's different pop-up menus depending on where you click. So make sure you're clicking here over the layer name and then choose mask. Now, what it does is it indents the layer underneath it. That was the black and white layer. And so basically what it is saying now is that it's going to follow that rectangle. That rectangle is the mask. Notice how the black and white, it shows through where the rectangle was. Okay? So wherever that rectangle is, and remember it's starting, and I'll go back here to the first keyframe, it's starting over on this left side. So right here, it is black and white. So that means that the mask is seeing the black and white. It's hiding it. Everything else you can see through. And as you play it, it goes to the right, then it goes back to the left, and then the entire thing becomes black and white. Pretty nifty, huh? All right, so you're going to want to save this in your folder in schools. And this one is going to be period number, last name. And this is going to be photo mask. And as always, we need to actually have a Swift file so that we can upload that to our Google site. Go to Control, Test Movie, and you'll have your Swift file playing there.